I'm Richard Morton, and I'm the Republican nominee for Shelby County Commission District 5. Just for reference, it's kind of East Memphis, West Cordova, north of Walnut Grove. Been in that district a long time, been in Shelby County a long time.
Why do you want to be on the county commission?
Well, I work for the county now, and I've been in the private sector. I can see a lot of, I have to listen to county commission meetings as part of my work now, because I'm the kind of person in the office who checks in on that stuff. And I just see a lot of opportunities and things that I can add, have a unique perspective in that I've worked in the private sector and I've worked in county government. So sometimes you'll have people who just do one or the other, and the folks in the from the private sector go into the county commission and they might not be familiar with how the red tape works, and the people who come up from the county might not see a problem with a lot of the red tape. So I think I can add a lot in how things could work and should work.
What do you do for the county?
I am the accountant for Shelby County Probate Court.
Okay. How long have you had that job?
Approximately 8 years.
So you've seen the county, how the county works. You've seen how the sausage is made.
Yes, the good and the bad.
Tell us about some of the good. What do you like that you can bring to the commission that will help you help them run county government?
I like a lot of the employees. I like my coworkers. I've made a lot of friends, but in my office and in different departments. And there's sometimes this feeling of from sometimes elected officials will be like, oh, those civil servants and stuff like that. And I see them as a bunch of really highly motivated, very qualified, nice folks who I think you do a lot more if I don't want to say a whole lot more. I think I can work with them well to create efficiencies, to have the Shelby County government run in a better way, and bring the kind of same priorities that they have to there, and the priorities of the other people who don't even work for the county. We all have kids who go to school, things like that.
What have you done in the private sector that will help you?
I was kind of a part owner and project manager for a local construction company.
For how long?
10, 15 years.
Did you do business with the county?
Nope, never did business with the county.
So how long have you lived in your district, and what are some of the issues that you think your constituents are concerned about?
I've lived in the district about 15 years. I mean, the things the voters are interested in, the constituents, are the same thing that I am, and most everybody in the county is. The district, it's probably it's not probably the most diverse, but it's fairly diverse in most respects. I mean, people want lower crime. People want quality schools, that they don't have to move to a certain part of town, that they can just live where they want to live and be guaranteed a quality education for their kids. People would like lower taxes. It's a burden on people, and it's less so now than a few years ago. But people want, well, it's not people want jobs, whereas before it was just people, my friends and neighbors, they were talking about needing jobs. Now it's becoming more of, we're hoping to get more quality jobs, and that's pretty much it.
Let's talk about lower tax rates. Shelby County has the highest tax rate in the state if you live in the city of Memphis too. Is it possible that consolidation might help in that regard, to consolidate two governments?
I've heard people talk about that. I just don't see the math myself.
Do you see any math in terms of reducing our tax burden?
With consolidation?
With anything.
Oh, yeah. There's all sorts of efficiencies that I think the county could get into, priorities that we could make. I think there's, with efficiencies, there's a lot of waste that the county does. There's a lot of.
You've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm trying to say this in a way. I have a lot of friends, and a lot of them are fighting the good fight. And if I put it the wrong way, I don't want to throw them under the bus.
But you believe the county government can be run more efficiently?
Absolutely.
In many ways. Is there maybe a more generic example that you don't want to throw anybody under the bus? But we're talking about personnel, we're talking about process.
I'd say I'll give you a perfect example. There was a study that the county had, and they spent probably, and this isn't a lot of money, $200,000 on it, and it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and it was to right-size the salary, and they ended up not using it, which that by itself is a waste. But also, me being a county employee, I was interested to look at the survey, and I looked at it, and to be quite honest, I thought the math of it was garbage, and I think the whole thing, whether they implemented it or not, would have been a waste of money. I just don't think people are doing. There's some things that kind of slide through that nobody's doing the math on, and that goes in procurement. That goes in risk management. There's a lot of the county spends a whole lot on attorneys. The county spends a whole lot on settlements. There's a lot of things will happen. We do a settlement and nothing changes. I think that there's a lot. And that's something I really don't want to get into, because that would probably be the kind of stuff that would be dealt with in executive session with litigation and stuff like that. But there's a lot of opportunities where let's look at this more carefully.
And that's the kind of thing that's motivating you to run for county commission and to help.
That's partially motivating me. It's also a priority thing. I have kids in school. The one that's old enough to be in the K to 12 range are in public schools. I care a lot about her education. She's in a great school now. She's pretty young. Hopefully, my younger daughter and as both of them get older, will be in high quality public schools. That's what I would like, and that's something I share with the vast majority of the population of Shelby County. I want to. When they grow up, I want this to be a county where they want to stay. And I see a lot of opportunities if we can get the tax rate down, we'll be a pretty competitive county for a lot of good jobs and a lot of good industries. I think things like that. My family's been in this part of the state for a long time, and I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I'm not leaving, and I want my kids to want to stay here because I want to be here with them. And I don't think there's a better way I can do that than to make the county better and give them more opportunities.
You mentioned earlier about quality jobs, needing more quality jobs in Shelby County. And I would also say that there are people in Shelby County who say we need more development and quality developments in parts of Shelby County, because the terrain is very uneven in terms of where communities have shopping, retail, apartments, as well as particularly grocery stores. Tell us a little bit about your feelings and your ideas about how you would incorporate tax incentives and incentives like pilots as well as TIFs into trying to bring about more changes in economic development in areas that have not seen much of it, if any.
Well, that's custom made for TIFs. They're made to be in places where development has not been strong, and that. The way I see it is pilots you generally do if you're trying to give them an incentive to do something. TIFs is when you're looking for the financing to bring something to a community. TIFs are just starting to take off in Shelby County. They're kind of a new thing, and there are people who are more optimistic than I am about it, but I'm pretty optimistic about TIFs and things that it can do in all over the county. I know there's one up in Millington. There's a few kind of here in kind of the main part of Memphis. I think that can expand, and I know there's other parts of the country that use them quite a lot, and there's a lot of opportunities for development all over the city.
You talk about your constituents being concerned about crime and quality education and quality jobs. But you look at the county commission, and the county is really about operating the judicial apparatus, funding the schools, maintaining the streets. Do you feel like you would be better in a city role rather than a county role on these issues?
I don't, and it's not that the city would probably be more effective in the criminal aspect of it, but I think my talents better fit the county commission. I know the way the county operates much better than I do the city. As far as education, cities kind of gotten out of that business for the most part. They're kind of getting back in a little bit with pre-K stuff, but the city's mostly out of it, and the county is. I'm not a education policy person. I'm more I look for accountability. I deal more with numbers and money, and I want the people on the school board to come to the county commission and say, we have this great project. We're going to be able to have this program. It's going to make this many students that much more better suited for college or for getting a job right out of high school, and we need this money. Well, if the money needs to be there for that, and that's what I'm good at. I'm not going to be I might end up in law school over one day, but it's not something that I would consider my expertise. But I'm pretty good with numbers, and I'm pretty good with trying to get revenue up and things of that nature. And that's the role I see myself as, is being there on the county commission when the school board or somebody else or one of the community colleges comes to the county commission and say, this is an opportunity, and I don't want the county commission to say, sorry, we spent it all on whatever. I want to say, yes, we can do that because we were responsible.
So you've been to county commission meetings. Do you think the county commission has the authority or takes the authority it should in terms of just sort of watching over the budget and making sure that the money is spent wisely and efficiently?
I think they do a good job of taking the responsibility. If anything, and I'm sure this will be a temptation for myself and the next county commission, is it's easy to get distracted. There's a lot of big issues. There's issues that you want to make a difference on, and it takes a lot of focus to zero in on the tasks that you are doing and not necessarily the tasks that someone else is doing.
You said you grew up in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think about leaving? What keeps you here?
I love it here. I did an internship and stuff like that where you kind of go away, and it's kind of nice for the first few days.
Did you grow up in the district you're living in now?
I did not. I grew up a few miles outside of it, but not in the District 5. But yeah, I'd go away, and I just want to come back. This is where my friends are. My roots run pretty deep. How
are you feeling about Memphis and Shelby County? Are you optimistic, hopeful, concerned?
Yes.
Right.
I'm all of those things.
Right.
I'm optimistic, and my optimism has kind of gone up and down over the years.
What makes you optimistic? What gives you hope about where we're going?
Memphis. A lot of the things that our leaders have control over are starting to go a little bit better. It's the economy. There's more development. I mean, I work downtown. You notice the difference. It's very different. Money is being put into industry. Money's being put into construction. People are wanting to move here. Those are things that didn't always happen as I was growing up. And I mean, Memphis has incredible potential for growth. The things that the leadership can't buy and do, the things that other cities would like to have, Memphis has.
For example?
One of the biggest inland ports in the country, one of the biggest commercial cargo airports in the world, Beale Street, Graceland. These are things that are fundamental kind of things at Memphis that you can exploit and promote, but you're not going to have a mayor or a county commissioner or a city councilman. You can promote those things, but they're not just going to happen in one term. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of cities that would like to have it that don't, and we do. And if we act responsibly, I think we have some of the most enormous potential for growth of any city in the country.
So what's holding us back? Why are we not growing?
Crime is one thing. Schools are getting a lot better, but there's a lot of growth. If you're in a company and you're looking for a city to move to, and you go to all your top executives and say, well, we're thinking about Memphis, these are the crime stats, these are the stats for the schools, it's a lot harder sell. It's getting to be a lot easier sell, and that's kind of why I think things are starting to turn, is that I think we're taking a long-term view on both of those. We're talking with the business community. We're trying to be a partner, and I think I can do that.
A lot of people talk about crime concerns and public education concerns in Memphis and Shelby County. Do you think we should be more careful about parsing that out? I mean, I've lived in Memphis for over 30 years. You have lived here almost all of your life. Crime has not touched us. It has not touched most people I know. We can live our lives crime-free for the most part. Public education, my kids went to school, great schools, great education. There are pockets, obviously, where there are issues. Should we, if we spend more time talking about those particulars, would we be able to invest more of our resources in those particulars instead of sort of this scattershot approach?
Well, I definitely think the particulars are the way we need to go. As far as strategy of it, that's.
I mean, I'm sure there are parts of District 5 that are more in need, more distressed.
Oh, absolutely. You have some of the wealthier parts of town. You have some of the, maybe not. There's certain parts that are definitely more blue collar and things like that, and there are certainly parts that crime affects more. But crime affects us all. It's expensive. If you look at the budget of the county, and you look at the budget of the city, and you look at the resources that the courts are putting into it versus other, it's an expensive thing to deal with, and it might not be something that I'm, fighting off people on a daily basis, but it affects the way we live. If people are frightened, that changes the way they interact with the community, and I think we'd all be better neighbors if people could be less concerned about crime. I think it'd be just a much better place to be. And if you're looking at it from a jobs perspective, if you're bringing a company in and the crime rate's higher, you're going to have to spend more on security. You're going to spend more on losses. You're going to do everything like that. But I completely agree with the particulars of the way to go. The just broad brush, we just need numbers. That's not going to solve it. But we need to focus carefully on it.
So what motivates you to get involved in campaigning and electioneering? I mean, you're a smart guy, you could just have a job for the rest of your life and not be involved that way. Is there something in your background, the way you were raised, to be more civic-minded, that compels you to sort of enter the fray like that?
I don't know if it's in my background because it's just kind of always been there. I've been involved since, well, basically, I don't really know when I started because as soon as I could drive, I started showing up to things. So I might have been involved a lot earlier if I could get a ride. But I just care about that stuff. I don't want to build I don't want to have a house with a fence around it and hunker down and, I want opportunities for my neighbors. I want a city that I can be proud of. And I am very proud of the city now. I'm proud of the county and want to be more so and want to continue it.
Anybody else?
You mentioned in your current capacity you began focusing on the county commission meetings. What stood out with you? What was one of the first things that you saw in terms of gaining efficiencies that you thought this could be done better if they did it this way rather than how it's going now?
To answer the specific question of what kind of got me started, I would hear questions. You have people come before the commission, and commissioners are great, and most of them are very good folks, and all the ones that I know I like. But not everybody has the same expertise, and people would go, when you know the facts, and you need to know the facts to ask the right questions. And I would hear person after person go before the commission, and nobody would, and they would say something. It wasn't exactly the way it was. Mm-hmm. I think being from inside the county and being, kind of coming up through the ranks, it gives you a whole different perspective. And I started thinking, I think that's something I could help with. Mm-hmm. Is, sometimes you just need to, people tell you the truth, but sometimes you have to ask them the right questions.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you. During the campaign, what have you learned about yourself?
I'm not nearly as young or have as much energy as I used to. And it's a lot easier being involved with campaigns if you don't have little kids at home. I've also learned, and this was from the primary. It's continued into this, but I had a moment where the voters are a lot smarter than people think. I was walking down the road, going door to door, and there was a individual there, and it was not one of the wealthier parts of the district. And there was a person there working on a quite old van that looked like it would have been a miracle if he got it running. Mm-hmm. And had a push card, handed it to him, struck up a conversation, and he knew everything. He knew who I was, he knew who my opponent was, he knew everything. People are paying attention. Not everybody, but a lot of them are. And it's worth giving the benefit of the doubt of trusting the voter, because they're much more knowledgeable than a lot of the political folks might think.
Thank you, Richard.
Oh, thank you.